Тайсън Майер е водещ продуцент, активист, пътешественик и човек, който обича животните от цялото си сърце. Вече и на малкия екран в България по Viasat Nature можем да гледаме филма му Bear, героят на коалите, за едно куче с смело сърце и изключителни възможности да търси и намира коали в беда.
The canine hero of nature's greatest tragedy.
Good boy!
A part of Wild Australia season. Bear, Koala Hero.
The animals, the travel, I don't know where to begin, but obviously I'm going to begin with Bear.
Thank you very much. Lovely to meet you too.
Well, he's, you can't really see him because he's hiding there, but I have a German Shepherd who's...
Oh, you have a German Shepherd. I actually have a little dog here that is hiding by my feet. She's my little shadow. I tried to keep her outside for the interview and she just kept knocking. So
No, don't do that. I mean, if they start barking, they start barking. That's it.
Exactly. What's your shepherd's name?
Lazar.
Lazar. How old?
8, yeah. How did you meet Bear? Because I remember a while back after the fires that I actually read about him. That he was a hero.
Yeah, so I first met Bear when the bushfires swept through my property. I grew up on a farm about 3 hours from here in southeast Queensland. And I was there with Dad when the bushfires came through, and we have this just abundance of wildlife there. There's eagles, there's dingoes, there's a huge koala population. And I remember as the fires were approaching, for the week before, the entire landscape was just smoky. It was so smoky it hurt your eyes to go outside. And you'd be walking around and you would see all of the animals jumping away. And then up in the trees, you could just see the koalas climbing higher, looking off into the distance. And I remember feeling their vulnerability and just how helpless they actually were. And it was then that I jumped on the internet and started researching as much as I could, and I put a shout out to my Instagram community, and that's when I stumbled across Bear. And Bear came out shortly after, and we began working together, finding koalas. And it was something that happened even before the documentary. I was traveling around with Bear to begin with. We were out searching for koalas, so it was a very organic process. And to see him go to the big screen and now reach people over in Europe and the other side of the world who are also learning more about koalas, it's amazing.
Do you have a count how many koalas did he find?
I could not count. And it depends on the location. So there would be some days where it would just be one koala. We'd search for 12 hours and he'd find just one koala. And then there'd be other days that we were finding dozens more, 15, 16, 17 koalas, just koala, koala, koala. Those were good days. But it's also bittersweet because every koala he finds is not necessarily a koala that we're able to save. When Bear comes in, he's often the last lifeline. And it's very lucky he's able to find them so quickly because I don't know if have you spent time in Australia?
No, I've never been to Australia. That's the only continent that I've never been to.
Come on out. It's very
I would love to.
On you. When you try to find a koala, it is extremely difficult. Even if you know they're in... There's been sometimes where Bear has found the tree and we've still spent 10 minutes looking up in that tree trying to find it.
I watched your documentary, and what really shocked me is why they had chlamydia.
You know what's really interesting is they're such an iconic animal to Australia, and they really are this symbol of our unique and diverse wildlife, yet so few Australians knew that much about them, and myself included. Even though I am this animal lover and I do all of these conservation projects, the koalas are just an animal that seemed to have slipped under the radar. But I believe it was actually something which they first caught, non-sexually, but that they first caught from cattle, livestock.
Wow.
The same way the pandemic that we're dealing with originated from animals.
Yeah.
The koalas are not immune to that either. And because they're so difficult to find, it's something that they can suffer with for such a long time. They have such a high pain threshold that often it'll do a lot of internal damage before you're actually able to capture them.
just past 6 o'clock in the morning. The sun is creeping up over the hill. The balloon is getting filled with the bear behind me. We're about to live out the ultimate travel bucket list and do a hot air balloon safari over the Serengeti. Welcome to the Serengeti!
I was looking through your Instagram, and that's like the places that you've been to, the stuff that you've done. It's pretty cool. It's really, really nice. So how did it all begin for you?
So for me, the whole traveling thing began as a very personal trip. I was working in a corporate job. I used to have, when I was 20 years old, I used to have to wear I did lots of jobs actually when I was 20. I worked in a factory, worked at a pizza shop. I ended up working in property, so I had to wear a suit and tie every single day. The property job was amazing. It was the first job that I was actually making money and could see a potential future. But the future that I saw just didn't feel like the future I wanted. It felt like there was so much more for me to experience and see and do. And I basically, right as I got a promotion, quit my job, packed my bags, bought a one-way ticket to Thailand, Brazil, and then I ended up in Amsterdam. But the point is, I bought this one-way ticket. I basically spent all of my money on these flights, and I had no plan after that. I just wanted to travel and see and do and experience as much as I can. And anyone who's traveled will know that you get. It's the greatest teacher and the best lessons you'll ever receive.
Absolutely.
The more I continued to document it and teach myself videography, teach myself journalism, teach myself photography, the more I kind of branched into different mediums that I'm working in now. And as you might know, that we're in a bountiful time that people like ourselves or anyone that's watching this that wants to kind of get into this space, there's so many opportunities now.
I'm sure you're also struggling right now, as I'm struggling horribly, that it's so difficult to travel, it's so difficult to move.
So for the first year, I took this as this is a good opportunity for me to reconnect with my home life, and I did some renovations and spent a lot of time with family and all of that stuff, which I'm sure you did too.
Yeah.
But this year I'm itching to get back on the road, and I'm now facing those issues of, right, yes, I can potentially find a way to get to this country, and yes, I do have these projects where I can film these experiences, but what will that be like when it is always 100% the people that make the experience?
Yeah, exactly. I always say that you should follow the rules of the locals, because sometimes people are reckless and they think they're immortal or whatever, but there are rules there for a reason. If you follow the rules, you'll be fine.
I agree, completely agree.
Speaking of that, which is probably the most dangerous place and situation that you've ever been in?
Interesting. So I was having this conversation with a friend before. I've been to a lot of so-called dangerous countries and had very safe experiences. I'm always cautious of saying that country is safe to travel just because I had a safe experience. So I've been to some of the most dangerous countries. I've hitchhiked through them. I've spent times in these favelas that they had a murder there every single day.
Yeah.
But it never felt dangerous to me. I do have dangerous situations. And then on the flip side, I have some of my most dangerous situations have happened in countries which I love. So I'm always cautious of telling those experiences because I don't want to scare people off that country. I can say, I've been robbed at gunpoint. I've had my hotel room kicked in, and they came in with rope and bats and bricks, and we were helping there for some time. I've seen lots of guns pulled on me for different reasons through different parts of the world. There's been a lot of different situations, but there's only been a few where I felt truly fearful. It's probably only been one, and that was the being robbed situation. A lot of the other times, it's always felt like more of a transaction, but the situation where we were robbed was a moment where we really weren't sure what was going on.
You're not going to tell me where that was?
I can. So that was in Uganda. Now, the thing I want to say about that is Uganda, I've been there 6 or 7 times. It is always in my top 3 of countries I love. It's one of the most beautiful places on the planet. The people are just the most warm and welcoming people. This was a situation that I put myself in. I put myself into that danger, and it should no way be reflected on the country. I could not recommend. I mean, I would always say check the warnings before you go. There's always tensions that arise in different countries. Always do your own research, but as a whole, beautiful country. I can't wait to get back.
Yeah. And you also use a lot of let's call it your physical strength in a lot of the things that you do. I think for a lot of travelers that's an issue, because for example, I can also work out every day, wherever, it doesn't matter. But what is your secret about that?
I'll give 3 tips, the 3 biggest tips. Number 1, walk everywhere. As long as it's safe to do so. If you see a flight of stairs, walk up the stairs. If you're only 1 kilometer away from something, don't jump in a taxi, walk. You will be amazed at what you will discover on these little side streets. And stop and ask a local for directions, have a conversation with them. They will point you to their favorite cafe, and all of a sudden you're on this entirely new adventure. Number 2, just do a 10-minute workout every single morning. 10 minutes, nothing more. As soon as you say, I'm going to do a 30-minute workout, or a 40-minute workout, or a 50-minute workout, it can start to feel too long.
Yeah.
And you will very quickly see, you will tell yourself, you know what, I'm going to give this workout a miss today. So just keep it short and simple. Everyone can squeeze 10 minutes in, and do it first thing in the morning. By the end of the day, anything could happen. You could end up in a bar, you could end up on a road trip. You can always watch what you eat. One thing that I would do if I'm doing longer trips, I would make sure for 2 of my meals, if I'm having 3 meals, I would make sure 2 of my meals for that day are still relatively healthy and balanced. If I'm in Italy, I'm still going to make sure I have a very nice dish to eat that night.
Come on, that's a crime.
Exactly. You need to live and enjoy that experience. Yeah, every project moving forward, I want to make sure it actually has some kind of substance and is important and has the potential to have an impact. That's what's been pulling at me lately, is just wildlife and the environment. I think we've got some massive issues that we all need to come together and face, and there's some fun ways we can do it that don't have to affect our lifestyle that much, because that seems to be the thing everyone's scared of. Everyone seems to be scared of change. So that was lovely chatting.
It was really great to meet you.
Good boy!
A part of Wild Australia season. Bear Koala Hero.